You're listening to Chicago Stories, a podcast from City Hall featuring the stories of everyday Chicagoans, as told to Mayor Emanuel.
Mayor Emanuel here with Chicago Stories. We're joined by David Eigenberg.
Yes, sir.
He's a great actor on Chicago Fire and from Sex and the City.
Oh, thank you.
Which one do you want to be known for when they write the big obituary?
When I'm going and gone,
Yeah.
When they put me in the pine box, I love my character on Chicago Fire.
Yeah.
Herman is. When I went to Munich a few years ago to launch the show on a cable channel there, and they went. Some German folks, lovely, amazing country. My father was a bomber pilot in World War II and flew out of France into Germany at the end of the war and bombed a lot of Germany. Mm-hmm. But they were wonderful people, and they said, Eigenberg. And you play Herman on Chicago Fire. So you're the German character, you're German. And I said, actually Polish Jew. and they said, so how are you liking Munich?
Yeah, exactly. They didn't want to go. They want to skip that history.
Yeah, they do.
Now, I read somewhere. No, this is okay. That when you were dating your wife or married early on, when you brought her to Chicago, she said, I never want to come here. It was during the middle of winter.
Yes.
I'll go anywhere, in the great biblical sense, where you go, I go.
Yes.
Except there was a small sign.
There was
except for Chicago.
Only one promise I ever made to my wife. I would never take her to. It wasn't Chicago specifically, because she
it was
had
for
never
the Midwest
really
for the winters.
Yeah, the brutal winters here. And
so how's she doing?
She's doing okay.
She's holding up?
I've made her change some of her verbiage because she was 9 months pregnant. We lived in an apartment, third floor walk up with the classical wood stairs in Chicago, which had to have been tied into some kind of sham in Chicago because New York preceded Chicago and always had steel. Mm-hmm. And somehow Chicago ended up being wood, which is a fire escape, which is the most flammable thing, which is one of the main things that goes up in Chicago, the back porches in Chicago. But she fell down the stairs, and she was 9 months pregnant, and she was like, I can't take it anymore. We have to buy a house. And I said, well, I could die at any moment on this show. Mm-hmm. So she says, ask your boss. And I says, he won't give me a straight answer because he's going to bust my chops. She wrote, Dear Derek, I'm 9 months pregnant. I have hate in my heart. I need to know whether it's a stupid idea to buy a home in Chicago. And he said, buy a home. So we got a home. And then I bought a home on the 606.
And?
Love it over there. I ran on it today.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
It is. It is amazingly beautiful. I love it up there. I love jogging all the way to Humboldt Park and back. I love one of my neighbors.
You guys are where, in Bucktown or Wicker
I'm in
Park?
Bucktown. I'm right on Walsh Park.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Which is a firefighter. A firefighter, Jack Walsh, died there in 1971 or 73.
You actually thought about being a firefighter, rather. A lot of people study to be a character. Mm-hmm. You're actually playing a character you wanted to do in professional life. Is that a fair, or am I over-reading the past?
Firefighters have always been in my life. Mm-hmm. There's a firefighter family here in Chicago, the Reardon family.
Right.
We're dear, close friends of mine. We got to know each other because I had been in Marine Corps Reserves up here in Glenview.
Right.
And the Tribune had written a little blurb about former Chicago firefighter, former Marine, and Ricky Reardon and Dave Eigenberg. Anyway, the Reardon family became really close to me. Ricky became my best friend, and we lived together for years. And then I got befriended another guy in Brooklyn, where my other urban life took off, trying to find my father, what made him tick in New York City, because he was from the streets, Depression era, 1924. Came up hard. Parents were immigrants. Tough guy, tough Jew, and wonderful man and a tough guy, one of my favorite people in the world. But so when I got there, I was with my buddy Al, and he says, I'm signing up for the test. This is last year that you and I can do it. I think it was 27. We signed up, and my acting career wasn't going so well. And it was a little bit at default position, but we signed up and I started taking the classes, and I got 2 acting jobs. Very soon thereafter. And I was working, it was a Saturday, and I was working the day. I was doing a play, and I was also doing a movie for HBO, which John Seda, who's on Chicago PD, was on. We were young. I was 27, 28, and I met Johnny then, an amazing, wonderful guy. And so my buddy got on the job, and then his house was first due on 9/11. They lost 7 guys in their house on 9/11. He survived I get a little weird about that, but you know, those days are close to me, and now I got kids that have no idea of this time, you know. And
you love the show, don't you? The Chicago Fire.
I really do. I love.
Are you happy that it's based on the whole series, based on the city? Is it weird to be a part of a show that's, you know, for Dick Wolf, this is like the biggest. Not he's done a lot of big things, but I mean, this is a big statement. One city.
Yeah.
3 different professions, 3 different takes on the city.
I love that he picked Chicago because of the history of this town, and my admiration for it. I'm excited by being here. I'm excited by being with Chicagoans that are from the South Side or the South Side and from the North Side, and talk about French rooms. And you ever heard of a French room?
Yes. You ever heard of Molly's?
Yeah. and I love first responders.
Right.
I love the cops in the city that I know. I know a bunch of them pretty darn well. And I love the firefighters that I've gotten to spend huge chunks of my time with. Their passion and their genuine concern for the people of this city. No,
they do. They you know, as you know, we lost a loved one recently. And I think the city showed what it means to embrace it.
Yeah, Commander Bauer.
Yeah, tremendous.
Yeah, I was downtown for the Get Behind the Vest, a fundraiser down on the South Side in Beverly.
In Beverly. I was just there for the pancake the other day.
Yeah.
So you're back home. So I want to get again, is the missus happy now that she lives in a home in Bucktown?
She does.
And she likes the 606 as much as you?
She's a homebody, but the funny thing is we have a house in Burbank we rent out, and we have a wonderful guy staying there, and we went back for the holidays, and my wife turned to me after being there for 5 days, and we have a great neighborhood there with the 26 kids within a couple of blocks, and they all go to parochial, private, and public school, and they get along, and we do like Easter egg hunt, and we do Halloween at our house, and all the kids get together, we do Christmas caroling, and there's such a myriad of great kids in the neighborhood. But they're Chicago kids. And we went back to Burbank, and we were there for 5 days, and my wife says, and my wife and my son are always like, California, we're going back to California. And she turned to me and she goes, I don't know. And I said, why? She goes, the kids here. I said, yeah. She goes, they're so soft.
Kids in Burbank versus Chicago. Yeah, they didn't have the character.
No. And so now she's like kind of caught. She's kind of caught that thing because...
You have a good neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a real sense of community there.
Absolutely. We got it, you know, old school. I was talking to one of my neighbors the other day, born and raised on the trail. We live on one block. I don't know if there's any other blocks in Chicago where we have a sidewalk in front of our house. And
yeah, we have those all over the city.
Just
sidewalks.
No, it goes
I know your mother raised you thinking you're special, but yeah, we have sidewalks everywhere, David.
I know that. No, but it goes house, sidewalk, railroad track. So there's no street in front of our house. And it's what my wife loved about the house. That there was
character, man.
Yeah. And so this guy, Mickey, he was born in the house, 1-story A-frame, and he's a Vietnam vet, wonderful, wonderful guy. Went through it in Vietnam very quietly. I kind of keyed in on some stuff with him. He spent like 360 days in the bush. Amazing human being. I said, what do you know about the 606? Tell me about it. He goes, oh my God. He goes, you have no idea how loud it was, how industrial it was. It came down from Canada, the train. And there was a brutality of the way it came into the city, way it had to stop. Oh yeah, it was loud. And there were grain silos right up on the 606.
Do you remember what it was called before 606?
The Bloomingdale line.
The Bloomingdale line became the Bloomingdale Trail. In about 30 years, the city had been...
Yeah, working on it. And you brought it through fruition. Everybody did, I know.
Everybody worked. The neighborhood, it's a great example. And it's my favorite part is that it's brought people, and this is what public libraries, public parks can do.
Yeah.
Is it brought people from Bucktown interacting with people from Humboldt Park, people from Wicker Park, and Logan Square. It's a great melting pot.
Absolutely.
And you can see it, I bet you, running today, you saw people all walk of life.
The diversity on the trail is amazing, and people are up there walking, and it's a great link of the city. And I was just reading about the new drawings that were the proposal that may happen about possibly linking the 606 across the river.
Right.
The drawings came out, and I was looking at them today, and I was like, this is amazing.
So a little north of you, you know where Lane Tech is.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a
up
park
by WGN.
Right. Okay. We're building what's called 312 River Run. It's a bridge. It's 3 miles, one bridge, 2 parks.
Beautiful.
And you'll be able to run along the river, right along it.
Yeah.
And you'll McFetridge Park, Horner Park, and you'll have.
I take my kid ice skating there.
We're building a new ice skating ring there, a second one.
Fantastic.
A new tennis, so we'll have the best of the Riverwalk with the best of the 606 in a whole nother part of the city. And so it's not that far from where you guys live.
I took my little guy up to McFetridge, and there was a private party out there, and I said, and it was the open skate. I was, I open skate today. I said, what alderman's behind us? And he laughed. He goes, back in the old days, it might have been. He said, somebody rented it out. But the guy, I think he probably would have done it for anybody. He goes, they're going to be done. And you're in about 15 minutes. You just take your son out and skate. And that to me is kind of the Chicago thing. I came in downstairs, it's like, there's nothing, it's not on the books, someone could go out there skating.
Right.
But because there's 15 minutes, you're here with your son, hop out on the skate. I was out there with my son.
There's something about the character of the people of Chicago.
Absolutely.
That just embrace you with love. When I was convincing Dick Wolf
Yes.
to do the show, which it was like pushing an open door.
Yeah.
He said, this is the quintessential American city.
Yeah.
The iron over the river that runs through the heart of the city.
Absolutely.
And the bustle, the hustle, and then the neighborhoods. And so let me ask you a question is...
Thank you for having me here today.
No, sure. I got I want to go through... So you and I share something, having kids, we're in the public eye.
Yeah.
And how do you explain that role and still be a father and not... the character that everybody else is responding to. How do you manage that? How do you handle that as a father? So they see you for what you want to be, for who you are, not for what other people project onto you.
Well, I don't know if this answers it. I spend every waking moment I can with my kids, and I just, I try to...
I said kid. You have...
I have a little girl who's 4, Myrna,
okay.
and my little guy, Louie, who's 9. And...
you really went ethnic on the names there, brother.
I did. My son just said, what's my... Because he comes to temple with me sometimes.
Yeah.
And I love it. And my father just died 10 years ago on Sunday. And a couple of weeks ago... We go to Torah study. It's I'm not very religious, but I love, it's storytelling for me.
Right.
About finding the story. It's one thing I love about Judaism is the commentaries, 100, 600, 700 years commentary about different opposing views of what does this story mean. Mm-hmm. And that's what an actor does. That's why we're labeled as liberals or whatever, in an unfair way. Our job as an actor is to find out why somebody does something. Try to find out what is the story about? What are the different viewpoints of it? Why there are so many different ways to plug something in.
Yeah.
And my son, he said, they said, anybody doing Kaddish? And we lost a dog a while ago, and he says, my dog Bug, and the rabbi said, and pets too. And so he said the other day, I said, you can mention your grandpa Harry. He never met him, but he's connected to him in this interesting way. And he said my father's name, my grandpa Harry, and I got so choked up. But it's just about making my kids understand that I'm an entertainer, and people don't really know me, and people are always really, really nice to me 99% of the time, and but that it's what we are as people. What do I add up to? And if I can teach you to be a good person, it's what my wife is to me at the end of the day. I've met your wife a few times, and I honestly, I obviously don't know her well, but my thumbnail sketch...
We don't know each other well. But
same thing with me and my wife. When your kids are done
growing up, you can reintroduce yourself.
I get it. But my wife, if I say one thing about her, she's a good person. That's why I married her.
I think it's, my thing is, and I give this to Amy, we worked extra hard creating not only a loving home, but loving friends, because I think if you're in the public eye in any way, good and bad, it plays on your kids, and it can't, and so you got to give them a buffer of support. It actually makes you reach deep down into your soul to try to figure out how to be a good parent.
I hope so. It is. It's a dilemma. It's one. It's a weird one. You never get those tools from growing up from my parents.
Right.
Where do you find those tools? You know.
Does your wife work outside the home? It's none of my business, though.
No. When I met her, she was in the Army, and I.
She dated a person in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
She was allowed to go to another branch of the armed forces. I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah. Well, you know, she was an MP, so she was super squared away. And you know, in our house there's the right way to do things, and then there's the Army way of doing things. So, you know, we kind of bang heads on that. There was a point where after 9/11, I wanted to re-enlist. I was a little bit crazy, and she was like, "I'm not going back into the military. I didn't marry you to go back in the military." She didn't marry me because I was an actor. She didn't know what I did.
Right.
She had never. If I had been on Friends, because I saw you had Schwimmer here.
Yeah.
If I had been like Schwimmer, I would have been a big deal in my house. She could care less about. I mean, she grew to love Sex in the City, but she could care less. She didn't know what I did.
Did you like that, Sex in the City?
I loved it. It was a great time in my life. We had a lot of fun, but
why do you think that show captured, like in Chicago Fire? Why do you think these shows capture something, and that grab the public, and they're at different times in the country's history? Is there something going on in the country that you think the shows speak to, or I know the characters are important, the storyline's important, but there's something about both of these shows that they're at a moment that speaks to. I think, at least. I don't know if you share that.
I think that Sex and the City grabbed into the zeitgeist. It's kind of, maybe it stumbled into it at the time, but it was two main, the fifth character in there was New York City.
Right.
I hope that if our show is remembered for anything, it's about, we get to Chicago. What my character is, what I came here to do was to bring a Chicago guy. I wanted to find a Chicago guy. I went and spent my time with Chicago guys. You know, I've never said that I was from the city. No matter whoever I met, even now they go, "You're from Chicago." I says, "I grew up in the suburbs."
Right.
It's a very different thing.
Yeah, totally.
Wonderful people out there, but it's a different beast. And and they grabbed the zeitgeist. I think it was a time of excitement, of trying to find your place. Dating became a different world as the internet came into existence. Fashion became, it was a really kind of glorious time in America. We were innocent of 9/11, and things hadn't hardened. And then we got hardened, and then we got crazy, and we made a lot of mistakes. Wonderful things happened. And then Chicago, to me...
you think Chicago's the other character?
For me, it is. I hope it is.
Do you think it's true for the other actors and the writers?
I hope it is. I can only answer for myself. I mean, I glean the scripts for a piece, and I feel like they click me into it as much as they can. But Chicago and first responders in Chicago Fire Department, they are America. They are what is best in America. First responders in Chicago are tough people. This is a tough town, you know, really tough town, in a beautiful way. The history of the city is built for me. I'm a minor buff of the city. I picked up Algren as soon as because I'd read Algren. It was one of my favorite writers, and he grabbed what Chicago was. You know, I was reading. I have this Sandberg, Chicago, his poems. You know, the Chicago poems, and it's a brutal poem about the city, the work of the city, the hardness of it, but the laughter of the city. Nobody laughs harder.
You know, it's not an accident when you look at Studs Terkel, you look at David Mamet, that our great writers grab to character. They grab to the character of a neighborhood, the character of a person, in a way that other writers don't always go there. Yeah. And I said it's because of the people that make up the city. So what's the character of Chicago when you put the 3-4 shows together? What do you think people's walk away of? We both know it. I think.
Would you want to go first?
Yeah, but this is my show, so I get to do the question parts. It's not the bit. We're not in synagogue, okay? We're not on Mount Sinai, okay?
I think part of it is it's the care. People care here, but it's not saccharine. It's like, what are you doing? What are you bringing? You got something to bring to the table? It better be good. Because we're here because people love this city, and the indigenous people love it because they know how to laugh. They want to bash heads in a loving way, and if you can't take it,
you're not made for the city.
You're not made for it. Yeah.
I think Chicago is the quintessential big city in the middle of the heartland, the capital,
Yeah.
but a very small town.
Yeah.
And we are made up of big cities, and we're made up of small towns. And
Yeah.
like the firefighters, like police officers, they're a close-knit neighborhood community.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
They all, who served with
I've
who.
spent
And,
time in them.
Yeah.
Beverly, Mount Greenwood, up in the north side.
Oriole Park, the whole
Yep,
deal.
yep.
And but it's it's also true in different parts of Cottage Grove, et cetera, different neighborhoods. But there's a sense, it's got the beat and the rhythm of a big city, with also the tempo of a small town.
Yeah. Oh, everybody knows everybody. I think I only know 30 firefighters pretty darn well in the city. I know 100. Like, hey, how are you? Good to see you. Jesse, how you doing? Or whoever. And somehow it always hooks in to somebody. I can't even tell you how many times I bumped into somebody.
2 degrees of separation.
Yes.
Totally.
And I was in the original play of that on Broadway, 6 Degrees of Separation.
Really?
With John Guare, yeah. I played it. My son, he's doing a Peter Pan at his school. And he says, did you do any famous plays, Dad? And I was like, yeah. And he says, what'd you do? I said, well, I did a couple of famous plays on Broadway. I said, one of them, I said, because he has a little part in the show. I said, I had a little part in the show. I said, I was on stage for 3 minutes. And I was naked, and all I did was running around saying, F you, F you, F you. That's all I did in the show. But it was a great experience in my life.
So on Sex and the City, you surprised that Cynthia's running for governor? Or was that always in the cards? And
No.
was she always political?
Not to my knowledge. No, I mean, she's an amazingly bright, articulate. I'm more emotional. I love the written word. It means a lot to me. One day I came in with a scruffy beard, and I said, our characters were breaking up or something, I don't remember. And I said, do you think that I should be clean shaven for this? Because I was always clean shaven. I'm a clean shaven guy. And or should I be scruffy? And she went into a dissertation about. And I was like, my jaw was just, I was like, wow. I said, I was just thinking shave or not shave. But,
Cutting it down to the basic.
Yeah, she's an amazing human being. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
I think it takes some real moxie. She's bright enough to know what she's bit off.
Right.
So she's contemplated it. She doesn't take it lightly. And she believes in education, which there's kind of no greater striving for or looking for to find a way for our kids.
Yeah, that's what public service is about. So you've worked in New York, you worked in LA, you worked in Chicago.
Yeah.
How do you think Chicago stands out for the acting community?
Oh, they're phenomenal. I mean, they're
Why?
God,
If somebody's coming out of
talent.
school and says, I want to be an actor, or I want to be an actress, why would you tell them to start in Chicago versus those other two cities? Nothing against the other two.
No, well, there's a weird thing. Steppenwolf came out of, in New York, you come out of, you go to the best school you can. I went to a wonderful school, but younger actors don't know what I'm talking about. But it was kind of like the Sweat Hog School of acting. It wasn't fancy. It was American Academy of Dramatic Arts. It was big back in the 40s and the 30s and the 50s. Edward G. Robinson came out of there and Robert Redford. But my day was a little bit different. But when you go to New York or you come out of New York, it's Juilliard and Brown and Carnegie Mellon. Steppenwolf came out of Illinois State University, which is a great school. But I mean, it was the passion that those young people had. They tapped into something. And I think, what Steppenwolf brought out was they bring out the human experience. It's not saccharine. They're not looking, if you want to do community theater, I've done it. It's great, but it's not challenging. You find people like Mamet who, they're brutal.
Right.
They write about the brutality of man, man's inhumanity to man. Not all the time, but, if you can understand that.
The only reason I'm smiling is I tell my kids when they go, if you ever get caught, this is what college is going to teach you. If you ever get caught and they say, well, what do you think that play was about? What do you think that movie was about? And you're just not sure, just go, man's inhumanity to man. My parents paid for Sarah Lawrence. Man's inhumanity to man. You're 90% of the time, you're close to being outright.
Oh, so, yeah. And we dovetailed it back to the kids. It's good, man. Kids are an amazing gift. I mentioned I was coming here, and my son said to me, I said, can you buy a thing for me? I said, I can't. I get to go talk with the mayor today. And he's sitting in the back seat, and he goes, I wrote a letter to the mayor. I said, what'd you write? He said, a couple of years ago, they were writing stuff to the whatever. And it was something about Deserts.
We do food deserts.
Food deserts.
It's on.
He wrote about food deserts.
Yeah. So it's communities that don't have grocery stores, and
There you go, food
So we
desert.
just announced this week. Dominic's had 13 stores in the city.
Right.
Mariano's, Whole Foods, Jewel, they all bought them except for one.
Right.
One was in South Shore. They haven't had a grocery store in 7 years.
Wow.
We just announced a company. We put some resources in it. We just, 2 weeks ago, broke ground in Woodlawn.
Wow.
It's the first grocery store. It's a Jewel. First
Yeah.
grocery store in 47 years. So that's what, it's food deserts,
That's
which I
amazing.
actually think, if we went for dinner tonight, it's really more that these communities are opportunity deserts, and our job is to work and trying to create, whether it's grocery stores, restaurant, a food desert. Take a food desert and make it
Yeah.
what you have in Bucktown, we have in Ravenswood. We got to bring to other parts of the city.
Yeah.
So
Have you
interesting,
spoken
not-
with Theaster Gates?
Spoken with
Your dear friends?
Yeah, yeah.
I saw him speak at a arts center down Sky Arts.
Right, yeah.
Down on the south side, 91st and Commerce. He gave a table like this and
So here,
talk about what's special about Chicago.
Yeah.
Theaster Gates.
So
indigenous, amazing, incredible.
Right, a great artist, and so
Yes.
we worked with the bank that he
Yeah,
retro.
I've been down
we
there.
did there, but
Yeah.
worked with him as a partner.
Yeah.
And April 15th,
Yes.
I'll make sure you're invited.
Okay.
On the 95th Street Red Line,
Okay.
we're cutting the ribbon on the first terminal of the L stop. There's
Yeah.
going to be 2 terminals, which is unusual.
Yeah.
And he did the artwork inside the station. So
He was talking about it.
it's a radio station. It's a how to create. I think it's a unique vision of how to create community inside a transportation spot. And he's the artist inside it.
Wow.
So let me ask you one. Molly, is that based on any particular?
Yeah, in the neighborhood. It's Lottie's.
No, but Lottie's. Okay.
Lottie's, yeah.
I got it. So I have a couple neighborhood bars I'm going to have to push you guys on.
Okay.
I'm going to write a list down. I'm going to come with have you ever been to Matchbox?
No.
Okay, here, pen, paper. You
All right, there we go. We'll write it down.
We're going to
We'll
do the 4 Moons for you.
Okay.
I got a couple places for you.
Okay.
Tiny Lounge.
Dude, I have to go or I get this show to go.
No, you, because I want to
Me?
make. Yeah, the Tiny Lounge, the Matchbox. I have a history with, so there's a couple places for you that I'm
Okay.
going to write down.
All right.
Okay, Tin Cat, the whole thing
Okay.
for you.
I was just reading this morning because I was going through some I forget what it's called, but it was back in the down and dirty days of Chicago. The Workman's something. It was a famous back in the day of some crazy politicians, the First Ward. And it was the most famous bar in Chicago, but it's gone now. It was on Clark. It was like 413
You know,
South.
the first word was, if Chicago was infamous for the relationship between mob and politicians and labor, the first ward was the epicenter of that relationship.
Yeah.
So, just for the record, are you interested in ever writing up your own?
If I could have been a writer, I would have been a writer. And I've written, but it's just awful. I let it sit and I come back to it and I just go, oh my God. And, if I could have written,
Right.
but I directed a short film many years ago, and it was a great experience. And I'm not. It was good.
But you're not doing it again.
No, because I'm not a visionary. It's like if you're, and I think I'm a craftsman at working
Right.
and in acting. I'm not an artist. I don't see myself. I think sometimes actors get to art. I don't think I ever have. Maybe some people would think I have, but I'm a craftsman. But if you can't ascend to something, not of greatness, but of something that transcends the norm, I'm kind of like, why doing it? I mean, I think I get to a great place. I think I can come up with something.
Let me ask you, why do you think in the last 4 years TV has had this renaissance versus film? Where I wouldn't say the film is in the descent, but TV is in a renaissance moment.
TV, I mean, in the short program, I mean,
yeah.
in terms of like Amazon programming and,
it's
and,
like
and Netflix and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
it's in a unbelievable renaissance.
Because it's gone from where we're in a harder section of 23 episodes a year.
Yeah.
It's gone to the 12-episode arc, 10-episode arc, where a writer can really grab onto something. And they're not... The renaissance is great writers are going to television. Great actors are going to television. Why not live in the same place?
It was amazing. It used to be people, TV, they go, boom, right to film. Today, something else. All right, we have a quick series. You ready?
Yeah, I'm
now, you
ready.
got to be ready. You got to be yes or no, okay?
Okay, these aren't... Okay.
I don't want biblical answers, okay?
No.
Thick or thin pizza?
Thin, absolutely thin.
Okay. Absolutely thin. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. River or lake?
You want a loaf of bread with marinara sauce on it? No.
River or lake?
River.
Okay.
River.
Sears or Hancock?
Neither.
Cubs or Sox?
Yeah.
Cubs or Sox? Come on. Don't forget, you're being too political. You know you got.
No, I wasn't being political.
Yes, you are. Cubs or Sox? Pick.
Cubbies.
Okay. 16-inch or 12-inch softball? Yeah, I mean very.
I thought you were going to 16-ounce hammer or 20-ounce hammer. 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got it. 4 out of 5. You're there, brother.
There you go.
David, thanks so
Thank
much
you for
being
having
on Chicago
me.
Stories.
Real pleasure.
Really great to see you.
Likewise.
You've been listening to Chicago Stories with Mayor Emanuel. You can subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts and tweet your guest ideas using #ShyStories. Thanks for listening.